Community reactions to plans for redeveloping the Harriet Tubman House are fiercely divided. Located at the corner of Mass and Columbus Avenues, the building is owned by the nonprofit United South End Settlements, or USES. For the Black community in the South End and Lower Roxbury, the building has been a landmark and symbol of hope. For USES, it's also a financial lifeline to ensure survival. Tonight, we talk with the president and CEO of USES, Maicharia Weir Lytle. Thank you very much for being with us, Maicharia.
Thank you.
Now, this is a building that dates from only 1975. For someone my age, it seems still like a new building. So first place, why does something have to be done about the building?
Well, one of the main reasons something has to be done is that United South End Settlements has been facing decades-long deficits in our organization, and operating that building costs us about $350,000 to $400,000 a year just to keep the doors and lights on. And so it's really unsustainable for us at this point in time to maintain the building in its form that we have.
Now, this is an area that has seen a lot of change, a lot of gentrification. At the same time, you're dealing with the landscape of nonprofit funding. How has that changed for you?
I mean, absolutely. The funding environment has shifted over the last 2 decades, and many of us know that who have been in nonprofits for that long. There are more nonprofits, number one, that are competing for the limited funds that are available to all of us. And as philanthropy has shifted, we've really shifted to look at how we are making an impact and demonstrating that impact and investing in evaluation and outcome measures. And so that requires agencies like ours, which has been a multi-service agency that is set up to serve all kinds of people with all different types of needs, to be able to have those services. It really puts a lot of pressure on organizations like ours to find the funding that's going to support our organization. And so that's been a shift over the last couple of decades that organizations like ours have had to grapple with. And unfortunately, many organizations have actually closed and shut their doors because we just couldn't compete in this landscape. We are based as a settlement house, as you know, and the original settlement house in Chicago, Hull House, has closed its doors in 2012, I believe it was, that they ended up shutting their doors just because of the environment of philanthropy and funding.
Well, you're responsible primarily for one nonprofit, but you're in a building that's almost like a cluster of nonprofits, and I guess the community surrounding this, they see this all as one thing, and they feel this is a loss. What do you say to that?
Well, this is a loss, and this is an unfortunate situation that we are in and that we're facing, as many nonprofits has had to face in selling their property in order to survive. USES built this building to serve the community. We had operated in this building, but as soon as we opened our doors in 1976, it was expensive to run. We had many services that USES had operated in that building, and as time went on, we started to rent out space so that we could actually afford the electric bills and afford the cost of this building. And so today, as we've shifted with our strategic plan and where we're trying to have our deepest impact on children and families, the building right now does have nonprofit tenants that have been in the building. We actually have found a developer who has looked and worked with the tenants to find and relocate into better space that's actually more accessible and better in terms of no more leaking roofs and HVAC systems that are breaking. So we've been able to really take care of those tenants. That was really important to us when we were looking for a buyer for this building, that those tenants would be taken care of. So while we see this as a loss, we also see this as a reinvestment in our community, a reinvestment in United South End Settlements so that we could continue the 127-year legacy that this organization has had serving the city of Boston. That is what has been at the forefront and really important to our agency.
Do you think there's anything to say for some of the people who are unhappy with this move, whether it's about other organizations using the building, wondering where they're going to be left, or do you think that's basically it's someone else to deal with?
No, I mean, United Southland Settlements as a nonprofit organization and one that's in the business of serving others, we take that very seriously. And so as I mentioned, it's really important for us to make sure that the tenants have found and are relocated. And all of our tenants have been working with the developers. 4 of the tenants that are in the building have found space and are extremely happy with where they are relocating. And we have a couple of tenants who are not looking for that support and help and where they can go, and so we're trying to work and see how we can support them further. But I do think it's important for folks to understand that for USCS, this is about serving the number of families that we have and children and maintaining those services in the community that we're in.
This is BNN News. We're talking with Maicharia Weir Lytle from USCS. Maicharia, what about the future in the South End? There is another location USCS has. What is going to be going on there?
Sure. So United Southland Settlements has property at 48 Rutland Street. This is actually a historic property that was built in the 1850s and has been a property that's always served children, first starting off as an orphanage. We've had this in our portfolio since our beginnings, and we are looking at moving the Harriet Tubman House to this location and expanding our services and making sure that more children and their families can come through our doors for early childhood education, after school programs, be a part of the sleepaway summer camp that we have in New Hampshire. So many kids from Boston are able to get out of the city and experience nature, and then really supporting parents in our family mobility work that we have. And so this is an opportunity for us to expand and deepen our services and impact, as well as get us financially stable and make sure that we're here for another 100 years.
Now, I imagine what's happened with all the demographic changes in this part of Boston is that you have changes in the sizes of the different constituents that you've served over the years. You talked a lot about children. I guess for the elderly, for example, maybe there aren't as many in the pool to serve?
I think that there are a lot of folks in our city, unfortunately, that still need services, whether they're children or seniors. And there's a huge need for our city to address those issues. For United Southland Settlements, we have a deep experience rooted in serving children and their families since our early beginnings. Part of the Settlement House movement was to provide these early childhood or out of school time programs so that the parents can work and make a living so that they can support their families. So there are definitely needs and services. We do have other organizations in the South End as well as across the city that are able to serve the seniors, but I wouldn't be able to sit here and say that that's all taken care of. We know that with poverty levels are still rising, that there are a number of people in the city that still need services. And USCS can't be the only organization that's supporting everyone. So investing in the nonprofit sector is really important. Making sure that funding sources are still available for all of us is really an important piece. And I think what we're experiencing now, and we're seeing this with other nonprofits, is that funding is limited and we're having to make really difficult decisions about our strategy and the direction that we're headed. You know, we wish we could be the agency to continue to serve everybody and be everything to everyone. It's just not our reality today with the funding environment.
Well, the current Harriet Tubman House is also sort of at least a regulatory byproduct of urban renewal. So there are conditions about the property and how it can be used. So what will happen with that?
So our property, it's a privately owned property. The United Southland Settlements owns it. We have no restrictions on the deed. In 1974, we bought the property from the BRA at the time for $35,000, and we built the building. So there are no restrictions on the deed, and we're able to go ahead and move forward with the sale.
Now, in the future, there's going to be something else there if this goes ahead. And I guess you had some thoughts about maybe at least some kind of continuity to the past in whatever is built there in the future. So what would that mean exactly?
Yeah, so and when we decided that we were forced into this position where we need to sell the building, we did release an RFP and looked at a number of different proposals. The proposal that we ended up going with has a mix of housing, and it also has the first floor designated for affordable space. And so part of that was a social entrepreneurial or enterprise cafe. United South and Settlements will maintain about 2,300 square feet of space, which was important to us to have a presence on that corner, which we hope to continue the community gathering and the civic engagement aspect that that building has really served in our community. And then there are artist units and another gallery and preservation of the mural that is on the building now.
And one thing we should add, because we've talked about services in the South End all the time, you still have that summer camp program too, right?
We do. We just wrapped up another summer at Camp Hale, and we had over 240 kids that had attended the summer sleepaway camp.
Right. Well, finally, you've got a website. I'm sure you've got some more details if people want to check that out.
We definitely do at uscs.org, and people can look for Vision 125. That's where we're putting all of our information about the work that we're doing.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Maicharia Weir Lytle from USES.